What's going on, man? We're back with the first episode of I'm Just Saying in 2025. I'm Jeremiah.
And Gabe,
We're just back with another podcast. You know what I'm saying? How you been, Gabe?
I'm doing all right. How are your holidays?
It was good. Just glad to be home, man. But look, ready to go back to school, get this semester over with.
Yeah,
Spring
no, we're
semester
both.
was probably done. I don't know. Spring semester is more fun to me, but I don't know. I may be wrong.
Uh, yeah, I always feel less pressure, and then spring semester leads into summer, which I think
Yeah,
is
that's fact.
probably
Yeah,
more fun because first semester leads into another semester.
yeah.
That's probably why.
Well, we can jump right into it whenever you're ready, man.
I'm ready, man. Just you get
I
it,
bet.
you know.
Well, today is Sunday. The Vols played yesterday. Dominating Arkansas. I wrote an article and my prediction was like Vols by 7, but they completely destroyed that. They ended up winning 76-52 in the first SEC matchup of the season. How did you feel about the game?
But great, honestly, I'm with you. It's nice that we're doing this probably about 24 hours. Some people like to do instant reactions, and we'll do that some here in the future. But I do like to maybe wait a full 24 hours, let it settle in, and then
Yeah.
get in with our complete thoughts. So I have some interesting stuff about yesterday's game. First of all, I was like you, I I wasn't nervous per se, um, but just curious to how they would perform in SEC play. Kind of been a talking point that I haven't really subscribed to, but people on the internet and on Twitter and Spaces have said that maybe Tennessee would get exposed
True.
in once conference play starts, and maybe Arkansas would be that kind of team. Sometimes we've struggled with Kentucky with Coach Cal. We
Yeah.
have Jonas Adu, who obviously was our starting center last year and one of our leading scorers. That wasn't a problem at all. He came in, I mean, really not at all. After the first couple minutes of competitive play, Tennessee opened the game just wide open, and the scoring started from there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good game to see. Like, we started off, it was like, it looked like a real deal, like SEC game. And plus, like you said, everybody was like, oh, this is the hardest matchup of the season. We never know, how Tennessee is, and when the lights shine the brightest, how we're just known for across all sports. Um, and then, I talked about in one of the podcasts having that number one curse, but fifth consecutive week, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
almost surely tomorrow will be ranked
Tomorrow, going to be
number
ranked.
one.
And like you just said, we matched the best starting program history at 14-0.
Only
So
team still undefeated right now.
yeah,
I mean, it goes on and on. Seriously, I mean, I really was impressed by yesterday because not only did they win their opening SEC game, but they did it in pretty dominant fashion all the way around. And we'll get into more specifics, but not only are you keeping your undefeated uh, streak, which, best starting program history, only undefeated team in college basketball. Now that the Lady Vols just lost, that we used to have both, but they just lost to Oklahoma. So now you're still the only dog, only dog running. You still had, you not only did that, but you blew them out. You
yeah,
were number one, which everybody was talking about, you being number one, your life's too bright. You came out and you did it, arguing Chaz Lanier, which we'll get more into about that with him. And, is he really that good? Is he really, because I saw, if you've been watching the broadcast like we have from home, they
yeah.
like to put almost every game, they'll put a stat with what Chaz Lanier has done X games, through 10 games, 12 games, 13 games, whatever it is. And then on the right, be Dalton Connect, his averages at that time. And so the big question was how he would transition SEC play, not just his team, but his Chaz himself. 29 points. Did it again. His third straight 20-point game. Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and not only that, I mean, you can go on and on, but Igor Milicic played an
Yeah.
amazing
Oh
game
man.
yesterday. He was everywhere. He was finally shooting from three, which I know they've been pressing him to do more. Um, 18 rebounds is not only a career high for him, but it's a career best in the Rick Barnes era. For his time at Tennessee in 10 years, he's the most rebounds a player has had. So you're breaking records. You're asserting your dominance. I don't think they could have done any better.
Based off of talent, I do think Rick Barnes has had like better teams, but this seems like one of the most well-rounded teams that he's had in his
Oh yeah.
tenure in Tennessee. And I'm really like excited to see how good this team can be when the schedule gets a little bit harder, you know what I'm saying? Uh but yeah, hopping straight into it, like you just said, man, Chaz O'Neal is the real deal, man. Like I had questions myself, like even as a person that goes to Tennessee, I had questions myself, like, can Chaz he does it. He did it well in non-conference play. Had a great 2024 part of the season. But when we need him in league play, can he show up? And he does literally what he did with a season high of 29. He shot 50% from the field, 5 of 9 from three and 4 for
That's another thing I forget to mention a lot. He's efficient,
yeah, he's
very
really
efficient. I mean, from three, from the field, from the line, he he's very fit. It's not like one of those things he's chucking a bunch of shots, and so they're not really, you could argue like, oh, he's averaging 20 points on 43% shoot. I mean, no, he's averaging a very efficient 20 points per game.
he takes really difficult shots. Like
He
it was a
does.
shot yesterday, and it was he hand in his face. It was off of like not a pin down, but like a handoff from Zakai. He shot. It was quick. Like he has a lightning fast release. I was talking to someone like, bro, he gets the shot up really quick. Like if
He
you
does quick release.
after you cannot give him any space because he can get his shot up fast, bro.
And let's get right into it because we were talking about that before the pod and just periodically during the game. We both, and anybody who has watched us, can go back to the preview. We
Yeah.
we thought Chance would be good. We predicted him to be pretty decent. I thought he had potential to be around this good, but I didn't think we would act like. I literally said the words like, you're losing Dalton Connect. You're not, you're losing a top two player because he was second in the Wooden Award, second and won several awards for being definitively the best player in college basketball by some awards, but the Wooden is the big one that everybody likes to point to. Finished second last year to Zach Edey, and so I'm like, you're getting you're losing a top 2 to 3 guy in college basketball to the draft. You did really well in the portal, which it's proven they have. Felix Akpara, Igor, Darren Stone's still working out all of his stuff, still getting acclimated, but I think he'll get his stride eventually once he gets more time. And then of course Chad has been on fire. But I was on record for saying that, yeah, obviously you did well in the portal, but you're not going to replace Don Connect. And so far, I told you this before the pod,
Really
before
good.
the games yesterday, before I checked, Chad Lanier was the fourth best odds to win the Wooden Award. So you did replace a top 5 guy with yet another top 5 guy from a school that nobody's heard of. And I think it is starting. I mean, I'm just interested to see what you think. Is this a conversation we need to have about Rick Barnes and his both their recruitment and or their development? Like, what do you think it is? Because at first, before Chad got a chance to really shine, Dalton Connect was already scoring some big numbers both in preseason, summer league, and then early on in the NBA season. He was still at the top to maybe win Rookie of the Year. He's had some injuries since then. So I'm sitting here thinking, of course Barnes is good, of course his development is good, but maybe Dalton Connect was just a diamond in the rough that they just found, and we were quote unquote lucky to find him because now he's balling in the league. He was a baller with us, like an absolute dog, and maybe he's just a diamond in the rough. But now that Dalton's doing so well, and now that Chaz is doing just as good, you might just have to say that this fight, I mean, whoever it is scouting these players out for the transfer portal, these small D1 schools, I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, I'm a believer. I guess I'm a believer in it. Well, I've been a believer, but like now it's like solidified. And I wrote down here in the notes, and even in the article I wrote, like Tennessee has grasped the art of the portal. Like
Yeah.
that's 2 years in a row. You had arguably the one of if the nation's best transfer last year in Don Connect. Then you have, like you said, another top 5 transfer or top 5 player in the nation.
He's probably
So
he's a top 2 to 3 transfer, definitely.
yeah,
And he might finish at the top 2 to 3. There's a good chance. I told you that was after the game. The chance, but if I were to check the odds today, he'd be ranked top 3 for the Wooden Award. And he's right up. I mean, he's going to be in the conversation as long as he keeps this play up. I just
that's all he
think
has to do.
I just think the scouting and the development, it's great. Yeah, and I'll admit, and this is where I do get a little bit of an advantage from getting to work sometimes with the team. And I try to keep that stuff separate, but I have been able to talk with, like some of the coaches, some of the strength trainers, and he's talked about it. They're very big on building these guys up physically and mentally to be able to play this game. And what I find the most impressive is that they do it from the small colleges. So in a way, you kind of joke that maybe while all these other coaches, like Coach Calipari, who got a lot of his guys from Kentucky, but got a transfer from Jonas Adu from us, got some other transfers from everywhere else. He's signing big blue chip kind of guys. He's signing already name recognized guys, SEC guys he knows he can play. And yet Rick Barnes is signing guys from Igor from Charlotte. You get Darlin Stone, you get Chaz Lanier. These guys are all from schools that the common fan never heard of, maybe Charlotte, but other than that, hadn't heard of since then, right? And so while it seems like while everybody else is playing chess, Rick Barnes is playing checkers because he keeps getting way more value out of these guys And the fact of the matter is, he's probably not paying them as much as some of these other people are as far as NIL goes because they're from these small schools. And he's developing them to continue to be a top school. They've mastered the portal, maybe better than any
But
team in the
that's
nation.
what I said. And
In the
like,
two years, in the past 2 years, they might have done it better than anybody else.
they smashed it. But like you said, using the word dominant or rough, like I think that is what Coach Barnes looks for. He looks for that veteran who he's played well in these small schools, and he sees the potential. He sees they have all the mechanics and the utilities that he can use to, like you said, form them into something bigger. Because that's Chaz's third consecutive 20-point performance. He's had 27 times this season. There's only been 14 games. So obviously there's something that Rick is doing for him in the system that's getting those that's allowing him to get those shots up, but
I
also
mean,
he's capitalizing on those opportunities instead of throwing them away.
yeah, and then I'd like to segue that into a broader conversation. We're talking about coaches because I try to be objective, but I am just going to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Rick Barnes has done such a good job with this team because we both said, oh, I don't know if this team's going to go as far as they did last year. I don't think it's quite as talented. And he's taken this quote unquote not talented roster and he's made them totally even better. I mean, 5 straight weeks at number one. We're
And you
the
can't
number one
lie.
team in the country right now. I say, wait, the Vols are number one team in the country right now.
Yeah,
Sometimes I still speak as a student, not as a
yeah, that's what
media
I'm
member, but but still, I mean, they're number one. Chaz Lanier is playing just as good as arguably just as good as Dalton was this time last year, and so all credit where credit's due. Rick Barnes has done an incredible job at finding talent, developing talent, and that brings us back to Coach Cal, who I want to have an interesting conversation about. This is the Tennessee pod, not a Arkansas or Coach Calipari pod, but I am interested in your thoughts on Coach Calipari because I have several.
saying. I mean, obviously, as a name in sports and a name in college basketball, you can't really disrespect Coach Cal. But like we had a conversation where I talked with you yesterday, looking at Kentucky's success this year and Arkansas's success. Like maybe Cal doesn't know how to fully what's the word I'm trying to fully maximize his talent. Because even the
I
transfer
mean,
from
last year they lost to a 10th seed.
yeah, what was the transfer? Is it Jonell Davis? Even though he's struggling with injuries, he's averaging 30 minutes a game and only puts up 9 points.
Yeah.
But he was arguably the best transfer in the portal last season.
Which
So
is what I
so
would say. Yeah. And to that, what I would argue is interesting is this time, maybe 3 years ago, you would probably argue the exact opposite for
yeah,
him and Barnes. As in, I do think Coach Cal made a name for himself, or
yeah,
kind of just like his bread and butter was because there was all the talks about him just being like a regular season guy, a guy that didn't get it done in the postseason because he had his one championship in 2012 with Anthony Davis. And, I do put respect on Coach Cal's name, but even I will say, he hasn't won. His only natty came with Anthony Davis. And so there is the conversations of maybe you just happen to win when you had the best college player or one of the better college players to come through in the past 15 years, right? And I
yeah,
think that's a fair argument. But because of that, he's always hung his hat on the NBA. Look how many guys out of the NBA: John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, blah blah blah, Cat. You know, time after time after time, he's talking about this. These guys to the point people in Kentucky weren't even really appreciating. They're like, I don't care about the guys in the NBA. They don't mean anything to us anymore. Yeah, I need these guys to win now. And he wasn't really. And so the fact that he's not maximizing that talent to the best of his ability is so interesting. And then I thought he was going to do more at Arkansas. They're not bad. They're 11-3 right now, right? Like 11-4, 11-3. So they're
yeah.
not bad. They're ranked. They might not be ranked. They might still be ranked. They a 23rd, 22nd ranked team losing to a 1 seed. That's not a bad thing. But they did get handled yesterday. And to quote Calipari, they got
He,
manhandled
he
yesterday.
said he used manhandle yesterday in the interview, and then not to like you said, this is probably my last thing I'll say about him. But the funniest part, no, I'll say it later. I'll say it later. But I also wanted just to highlight, because I talked about this too. With Tennessee, it's like they have a three-headed monster now. Was Akai, Igor, and Chaz? Because like you said, Igor had 13 points with 18
Double
rebounds.
double, 18. Yeah,
Also added 5 assists. So he's like the hustle guy, and he also stretches the floor because we talked about that in the preview as well.
mm-hmm,
We haven't had really shooting big, like a good shooting big, and he
yeah.
can shoot the ball. And also,
He re- it, it, I I'll let you get to you, but really the turning point when we went on that run was him knocking down a pretty contested three. And it does. It opens the floor immediately and it lets Chaz and Zakai do their thing.
Definitely. And then to add on that, veteran guard, reigning defensive player of the year for the SEC, Zakai is literally the quarterback of the offense, which can be a good thing and bad thing at time. We can get into that more. But he's literally quarterback in everything. He got 12 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. So he's guarding the best player. He guarded Boogie Flan, the future first round draft pick, probably lottery pick out of Arkansas. But he's also penetrating the defense, getting to the paint, getting those kickouts, and he's also hitting those second chance opportunities off of Igor's offensive rebounds. So this is something you can see like, okay, these are our big three, and then everybody else just has to do their job. But if our big three is there, everybody else do their job, there's no way we can lose.
We had mentioned this also when we were talking earlier in the season, like during the preview about what we were going to do at the 5 spot. And if the JP getting out made it interesting, and Cade Phillips had a little, I think he hurt his shoulder a little bit yesterday, but to be honest with you, overall, I think, and I was hoping they would maybe get to this point, and I even predicted that they would. I think the Felix and when Igor can stretch the four, Igor at 4, Felix at 5, I think it's so nasty of a combo because Felix is going to catch all those lobs from Zakai, that like middle screen that they always do it. He comes up and they always go over, and then Zakai goes under and he throws it up, and it's a lob to Felix every time. His arms are so long, nobody's getting to it. And then if that doesn't work, you can always do the same, but you could do a pick and pop with Felix, and that would be even more deadly as he gets encouraged to shoot more threes. I just think those two together, they're rebounding. One has 18 rebounds. Felix is liable to get 10 plus. I don't remember how many he had yesterday, but he didn't need to because Igor's doing so well. But both of them are liable to get 15
Yeah, like
in a game, Yeah, yeah, but in any given game, both of them are liable to get 15. In any given game, both are liable to have double doubles. And I think to be able to play with both of them at the same time, in college especially, is so key. Because a lot of times you'll have one or the other. You might have a stretch guy who can't really, provide you too much. Like when we were in New York, what's the kid's name from Michigan? Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? I say, but the guys were, and he was a good shooter, and he was doing well. They were feeding him every single time, and he had a few good blocks for the most part, in my opinion. I, I, I not a defensive liability. I just don't think he's that great defensively. I don't think he did that well on the boards neither. I mean, actually, objectively, they lost because they let up an offensive board to Arkansas that game. So you have a guy like that who could be your scorer, who could bring the ball up, who could score from 3, but maybe lacks in some of that physical area that the offensive rebounding, the blocking, defense. Or maybe you have one guy who's really good on defense. Like honestly, Jonas last year was like, he caught all the lobs. Maybe not a great defensive star, but he caught all the lobs, blocked all the shots, grabbed all the rebounds, scored some. But when he wasn't scoring lobs, he wasn't really scoring. Even yesterday, he came back to Tennessee for the first time. He took a 3. Let him have it all day long. Nobody cares. And so it's so hard to get both. And the fact that we do have two guys that can attack you from both areas. Daniel Wolf, there he goes. That's the guy from Michigan. Super tall. But now that you have two guys who can down low, who can provide both options, so deadly. It's really part of a big reason, in my opinion, that we're ranked number 1 right now. We've been undefeated is because you can have two guys like that.
Yeah. Speaking of defense, though, I just wanted to talk about the defense showing up big. Yesterday we, according to KenPom, we're ranked 2nd, but now we're ranked 1st. I just saw that we're the best defense in the country.
Always.
Usually averages around 83 points a game, but they only score 52. So that's just a big testament to like Rick Barnes' coaching game plan. Like I said, the occasional press, guarding 94 feet, wearing down those stars. The traps, they did a lot of trap, but we have great help. Well, they have great help side defense, man. You see, like if somebody get past Zakai, Meshack will be there. Felix he only had a block yesterday, but even just his presence is altering the normal shots that they would probably have. And
and the low post defense isn't always reflective in the box. I mean, Felix has done such a great job down there being a presence, keeping his arms long. We mentioned this a few pods. You got to remember after one of our early games, about him needing, and I said he would, but like after a couple of games, getting better on the fouling and the goaltending, like that was kind of a bit of an issue early on, and he largely has. And again, I told you that'd be key to fixing that, and I thought he would once he got more settled in. Yeah, he's from Ohio State, so he's used to physical basketball. He's not coming from one of the small schools, but he still had to adjust to SEC play. But
Yeah, but he's doing a phenomenal job, like you said, because everything in the box score doesn't show up when it comes to post defense. Arkansas struggled from the field. They only shot 37% and only 20% from behind the arc. So like that was a great defensive day for the Vols,
live by
and
the three, die by the three. Though part of that is on them.
but that's really Coach Cal's offense. Kind of if you look
I
at the
mean, and you said that to me yesterday. They didn't have a shoot around, and
yeah,
that's why I
that
thought the
was crazy.
conversation about Cal was so interesting because he gets in, and this is like I hate to do. We could get into a broader conversation about this. Personally, for me, I don't even know if anybody else cares, but I'm curious what you think. Like, what do you think about coaches taking accountability after the game? Because I preface by saying, for anybody who didn't watch the post press conference, in my opinion, Cal goes up there and does kind of like, he's like, oh, how's the game? I don't remember the questions asked, but he was like, oh yeah, we got handled today by some men. Giving credit to Tennessee, but also kind of throwing his players in the bus. Like they got out physical, right? But he prefaced to say, like he said it in a way that was kind of insulting, and for better or for worse. And then they asked him again. He's like, oh yeah, well, we didn't have shoot around, and he's still Field 68 posted it. Yeah, we didn't have shoot around. If I could do it again, I guess we would. And he did. Just didn't have guys show up. They just ate breakfast and then came here. And so again, like kind of like I don't know. In a way, it's kind of like him saying, like, oh, I didn't lose this game. My players were lazy. They weren't physical. They weren't aggressive. We didn't have a shoot around. We might have been different. Coulda, shoulda, would have kind of stuff. What do you think about coaches taking accountability? So we already talked about Dan Hurley on this pod before.
Yeah, I'm all about coaches taking accountability, but you have to do it the right way. Like bringing up Dan Hurley, like saying the reason y'all lost 3 games was because you scheduled a back-to-back game tournament or like
Yeah.
that. That's a terrible excuse. And like you said, like it was more like I've seen coaches take accountability. Like I can't remember Texas A&M's coach last year, I believe. It was just a way like he's blaming, oh, I have to coach better. We have the better game
Yeah.
plan as a staff. Like in those situations, yeah, like you got a better game plan as a staff. Like if he would say, yeah, my guys didn't have shooting around, I canceled it thinking because the game was so early, they can get some sleep and just wake up and then we'll just go through our pregame routine. If he would have said it like that, but instead he said, oh yeah, 3 or 4 guys didn't show up. They just overslept, had breakfast and came.
That's what I
Like
mean.
that's
That's kind of a terrible thing to say, right? Don't you think? Like you're
why are you
a
throwing
top
your
25 team in the nation. Yeah, you're challenging an SEC title and you're saying like mid-season start first game of conference
go to
play. We
2025?
already talked about
Yeah,
how tough the SEC is, and you're
yeah,
making it seem like your guys don't really care. I just was curious about it because part of me is like I kind of like it. Maybe if you really were upset with your guys and
yeah.
they really didn't show a lot of heart out there and they really weren't punctual, to maybe take it to the media and say, hey, these guys need to do better. Maybe they see it. Maybe it inspires them to do better. And maybe coaches should be more, hold their players more accountable. Be like, no, you guys need to be better. I'm not taking accountability for a loss that you had because you didn't show up to. So part of me thinks like, oh, I kind of respect that. And then part of me thinks, nah, you need to keep your locker room together, especially at a time like this. So in front of the media, you need to say stuff like, oh, I need to coach better. I gotta find a better way to get my guys ready before a game instead of saying they didn't show up. Say, I gotta find a way to get us more prepared. And then in the locker room, you can grill them for not
Yeah,
showing up on time.
that's what I'm
You can
saying.
make them run laps. You could do all that kind of stuff. But in front, you got to maybe show a strong face, as far as I just thought, I was a side tangent, but I was just really curious your thoughts on it because we talked about Dan Hurley, I think the last time talking about Cal, and I just find it interesting. And not that Rick Barnes isn't like totally immune from it, although I just think he does it classy, in my opinion. And I've worked here for a little bit, and he will go out and say like, no, I mean our players, it's unacceptable shooting from the line like that, right? Or he's grilled them for taking too many threes sometimes. He's like, I don't want to see terrible threes. I don't want to see that. I don't have a problem with that, but maybe after a loss, I think is the only difference. Maybe you could do it after a win. I think maybe after a loss.
I would
I think
agree.
yeah,
I would agree too. I just feel like also when Barnes is upset about something, his tone is just so like boom. Cal was like, I mean, you know what I'm saying, 3 or 4 people
yeah,
in the team.
yeah, yeah. I
Like you
agree.
can't that can't be your tone, especially as a head coach, bro. And like that can't be your tone. If you're actually genuinely upset about your guy, 3 to 4 of your team your players only oversleeping and eating breakfast, then show them to the game, then that's different. But it seemed like you were already okay with it, and then he was like,
It seems acceptable, and that's a
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
That's
that's what I'm
that's
saying. Like,
it could again. I hate to infer, but we could infer that's maybe why he's not maximizing the talent that he brought
yeah,
to the team.
yeah.
Yeah, but
How do you not have a shoot around versus the number one team in the country?
it's the number one team in the nation. It's the
Yeah,
first game of SEC
it's,
play. I don't understand. I don't. I just didn't understand that at all. I didn't understand the idea of just the oh yeah they got manhandled, they weren't ready. It's just like your players are arguably just as big if not bigger than ours. Why are they getting out? I don't know if somebody asked a follow up question to that, but why are they being out physical? Because if there's one thing about us, it doesn't matter how small we are. The Kai Ziegler being the prime example, we're not going to get out physical.
yeah,
That if anything, no matter if we go 0 for 20 from three, 0 from 15 from the line, no matter if whatever, I don't know, whatever could happen, we foul, turn the ball over 10 times. We're not going to be out physical. We're still diving on the floor for balls. We're still boxing out for offensive rebounds. That's just again, Tennessee getting better at that. It's new year, new us, guys.
yeah,
But but that's Rick Barnes. That's Rick Barnes style, and I say we because I get passionate about it because I am a student. Because that is Rick Barnes style of basketball. I mean, it is. It's what Enom is all about. It's like it's that kind of thing. But
yeah.
side tangent. I was just curious about your thoughts.
That is a great question. But trying to finish up this Arkansas game before we move on to look forward to the Florida game coming up. What's that? Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday? I think
Tuesday.
Tuesday. But yeah, my last highlight that I want to point out was just, we don't have to spend too much time on it. Was just the dominating of the boards, dominating the rebound
Yep.
contest. Season best 51 rebounds for the Vols.
Yep.
And that out rebounded Arkansas by 22. Just going back to that physicality, like, what do you think? Besides, of course, Milicic had 18. What do you think was the like reason why that would really work? Like, how did we out rebound them that bad?
Well, number one, I think just the more technical plain answer is Arkansas takes a lot of threes. And whenever you take a lot of threes, you space yourself out a lot. I mean, you got guys, multiple possessions. I'll see dudes on Arkansas's team never even get inside the arc,
Yeah.
because it's all spaced out and it's all. And so naturally, they're going to do that. And part of it, I do think, is, again, Tennessee's MO. And every top team that's been number one, I'm can't say for certain, but I could almost bet if you check our top rebounders, that's how you win games. If you show me a blank stat sheet and one team just dominated the glass,
Yeah.
completely owned the glass and the other team didn't, I'm gonna say that team probably got blown out. You know what I mean? Or blew the other team out all day, every day, because that is one of those key stats. Even sometimes threes can be, kind of deceptive. They hit a lot of threes and still lose game. You show me that they've absolutely cleaned house on the boards, they probably won the game.
Yeah, just last thing about the whole rebounding thing. What really stood out to me about it was the 24 offensive rebounds, compared
Huge.
to Arkansas's 9. Like, those are
Huge.
opportunities for second chance points. And the commentator, I forgot who it was that was commentating the game, but he called those offensive rebound kick out threes called reload shots. And those are the shots that Zakai and Chaz really take advantage, and Jordan Gainey, they really take advantage of, because it's open. They can set their feet and take their time without being like rushed or anything. And I feel like that's a big win when we could get those offensive rebounds by Igor or Akpara and then kick out for a wide open three.
Huge.
Uh, Moving on, I just wanted to talk about, before we get into just specifically the Florida game, how good the SEC really is right now, man.
Yeah, we could segue. Yeah, we could just combine both of these.
Yeah. Well, really, let's
Uh,
go. 10 teams in the
yeah,
top 25. Tennessee plays 5 of them in January, with the first one down was Arkansas. So,
so crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, more teams in the SEC are ranked in the top 25 than are. I think that's how the whole SEC is ranked in the top 60. I mean, there's no bad team. No. And it's similar to football, but even in football, when you had teams like Mississippi State, Auburn not being good. I mean, Mississippi State's top 25 team in basketball. Hubbard's one of the top scorers. Every last one of these teams are good. Every last one of these teams can beat anybody, honestly. Uh, but it it's going to be a long conference game. Somebody at church this morning asked me that too, and that's what I told him. He's a Kentucky fan. He's from Lexington. He asked me about it. I said it's going to be a long conference schedule. The road games I'm really nervous for. I think it's going to be very difficult to win on the road.
Because we saw it with Illinois, man. Illinois was the closest game of the season, and
yeah, and it should have been. But
crowd, man.
It's hard to play on the road, especially right now. It is a hard. and difficult road schedule ahead. We got
Yeah,
Auburn on the road. We got Florida on the road on Tuesday. That's gonna be
that's
that's
gonna be
gonna
a
be
good
hard.
one. I
Tennessee's
feel like
gonna have
that is. I thought Arkansas was gonna be the eye-opening one, but like, of course, we dominate that game. But I think Florida's gonna be the real like. All right, y'all. We gotta see we're good for real. We gotta see, especially like you said, away game, hostile environment. We're going to the Swarm in Gainesville. Then they're coming off a really tough loss that I wanted to just key about against Kentucky, and they scored 206 total points. So obviously this team can score. And they're the first. They're obviously they're according to Camp Home too. They're the first ranked offense in the nation. So first ranked offense, or not first. They're probably top 10. I don't know. I don't want to say first and then it'd be wrong. But I know they're top 10 offense versus a number one defense. It's gonna be like whichever side is gonna be clicking, man. Like
yeah, for sure. I think yeah, yesterday's game against Kentucky was probably the most entertaining game of the day of all the SEC slates. I mean, that was very fast paced, very high octane basketball. Florida
yeah,
looks good. They did fall. They were one of the other undefeated teams. They finally fell. In the swamp's gonna be tough. It's gonna not only is it gonna be a hostile environment. I am nervous. I know Arkansas can score, but Florida really can score, and they have been scoring. I'm nervous for the team, what they look like and how they react, because I don't see us at the moment. I don't see a scenario where you hold a team like that to less than 70 points. You
yeah,
know,
right.
52 like you did, 63. I don't see a scenario where you're holding less than 70 points. And so once they start scoring, I don't know how they're going to react once
The
it's
crowd
50 at
gets
half,
into it.
once
Yeah,
it's
the crowd gets
65, once
yeah.
it's 70, once it's 80, if it gets to that point. But like, I just want to know how the team will react. I think it'll be, I think more than, I would say definitively more than any display of skill or on court, like tangible test. I think the biggest test that we'll see on Tuesday is how this team is mentally, because if once this team starts scoring and once they start really working, and I think that would give us a really good look at how they'll react in March Madness once they go to other venues and they have to start playing when the other fans are around, not at home. Because it's a great home team, but on the road sometimes can be a little questionable.
Yeah, speaking of like you just said, man, just holding this team under 70 or 56 is gonna be so hard. They averaged 87 prior to our game.
Yeah, I don't see wherever you do that.
Prior to the game versus Tennessee, they averaged 46 rebounds prior to the game versus Tennessee, and they shoot pretty good. They shoot 47% from the field as a team and 34% from behind the arc. So like this is not a bad shooting team. And plus, they're gonna rely on these senior guards. They're gonna rely on senior guard Walter Clayton Jr. He averages about 18 points a game and leads the team in assists with 4 a game. Then they're gonna rely on Elijah Martin as well, another senior guard. He averages 16 and 6 rebounds and 3 assists. So like this is going to be like a really good backcourt battle, of course, between Zakai
Guard play is going to be huge. Guard play is going to be huge.
and Lanier versus these two guys. Like, it, I don't know. It's
I
it's
think
gonna be
Tennessee.
it's gonna be another eye opener. Like, because I feel like this game instead of Arkansas was like, okay, Tennessee can do well in SEC play, but this people will look back when it's end of February, beginning of March. Like, okay, how did they respond in the Florida game in
On the
Florida?
road once they start scoring,
Yeah,
once
like
their fans are involved. I think that'll
that's
be
gonna
a
be an
huge
eye
test.
opener.
Yeah, Arkansas starts SEC play against a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Maybe not great, but pretty good team. And so that's how you start it. And that's like getting your toes wet. And then this will be another test. How are you going to do this? Can you do the same thing on the road? Can you establish your defense early? Because I do think that would be the key. Is like you said, number one offense, I mean the number one defense, and they're going to clash, and one of them's going to have to prevail.
Yeah.
Can Tennessee's basically whichever can Tennessee's offense can Tennessee's defense play like they have been, and they won't probably keep them under 60, 70. They'll probably score more. But can they hold, bend, don't break, and get our offense do just enough to keep them, to victory? Or will Florida's offense do just enough and their defense do just enough and then their offense prevail? And so I think whoever establishes that effort,
That's
because
the question.
Tennessee,
That's literally
because
going to
Florida's
be.
going to play fast. They're going to want to play fast. They're going to want to play. They want to shoot a lot. They're going to get a lot of possessions. They want to crash the boards. Can Tennessee establish pace? Can they force Florida to play the game that they want them to play and not have to play? Because I think once Tennessee starts having to play their game, I think it might be a little over for them. But I don't know. It's a very
That was,
interesting matchup.
that's literally going to decide the game. Will the defense outlast the offense, or will the offense outlast a good defense? But like you said, I also want to add what a good something does surprise me before we get off of here. Tennessee's top 20 in offensive rating in the nation.
Do it
And
well. No, no, no.
there
Yeah,
was
do it
there were a
well.
lot of questions between us and even like fans and even professionals. Like Tennessee's not going to be good on offense this year. And if there was any question about it, then the stats prove itself, man. Top 20 in the nation is great. And it's way better than I thought. So they're proving us wrong, proving fans wrong, proving professionals wrong. So
Yeah, no, that I also question their offense. Rick Barnes' offense usually is. You know their defense is always getting good. That's the biggest thing is their offense gets up. Their offense has been more than okay. Chattanooga's going to have a good game. He's going to have to score more than 20, 25
that's to
again.
show it. He has to
Might
show it.
even have to put up a 30 bomb. Um, he'll
He's
have
going
to
to
have
have
a
to
good
show
game.
it
And
too.
there's no scenario I don't believe where Tennessee comes away winning this game on the road without Chaz having a good game. Without Zakai doing much better. Which be a little nitpicky. They have on the field. They have been doing well, but Zakai's been struggling from three, like he tends to do. He's been
Yeah.
streaky.
I
It,
had I
it
was
would be unacceptable for him to go out there and shoot like 2 of 10 from three.
Yeah, we can't do
That's not
that.
going to do it.
We cannot do that. They cannot do that. I literally wrote down one of my last points. I wrote down how like it was a blowout win, but we like Tennessee shot terrible. Almost shot better from three than they did from the field. They shot 38.5% from three and 39% from the field. That will not cut it when we go deeper into league play, man. Like
Nah, so that
stop saying we. Well, they will not go. That will not be good when Tennessee goes deeper into league play because, like you said, well, when we play these teams, they can put up 90 points a game and also guard you and can match up, can go fire for fire. Then I don't know. It's gonna be a sight to see for sure.
I agree. Well, we'll see. We'll be here right after.
Yeah,
Maybe not right after. Maybe the day after. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
figure out how it works, how it feels, depending on how the game goes. But we'll definitely put a pod up after discussing. See if we were right. See if we were wrong. See where some of the see how some of it plays out. Literally.
yeah, but new rankings should be out Monday.
Almost
Monday
certainly agree. We're
afternoon.
number one.
I'm guaranteed we're number one, probably 1-2. Tennessee and Auburn has been 1-2 past 4 to 5 weeks. So
I have
top
a
10,
feeling if
gonna have
Tennessee were, or I'm almost certain if Tennessee loses on Tuesday, they'll put Auburn back number. I think the voters are waiting to put Auburn in number one, but until Tennessee loses, they can't justify it. That's my personal opinion.
So we're gonna look forward to that. Gonna be right back on the pod maybe Tuesday night. We're feeling good. If not, it's gonna be up Wednesday. Uh, but I'm Jeremiah again.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
You have a good night. I appreciate you for tuning in. Peace.